Our first speaker for this session is Judicaelle, an Afro-political feminist theorizing the intersections of feminism and Pan-Africanism. She is the executive director of Choose Yourself, a nonprofit looking to build race equity and gender equality all over the world.
Hello, my name is Judicaelle Irakoze, and I am an African feminist. My feminism is very radical. Like many other African feminists, I've been asked many times, is feminism African? Is it like a Western concept? Don't you think you are colonized for being a feminist? Like many other African feminists, I've had to go on and on how fighting for the liberty and the freedom of women, African women, is truly African. Because I have references. I have my ancestors who organized for the liberation of women in their communities. Then I got to realize the problem is language. The problem is who came up with the term feminism. I got to realize that the issue here is above me because the concept of language, because the concept of academic, because the concept of coining terms. And just because my ancestors, just because Adelaide Casey Hartford, just because my grandmother, just because Fatima Ibrahim, just because Hawa Otako, just because all these great women who fought for the life of their fellow women, who organized for freedom at the intersections of decolonization, did not have the tools and maybe the language to coin terms or come up with the term feminism, doesn't change that their movement, again, is a feminist movement. So today I'm here to honor my ancestors. I'm here to honor the African women who have shaped ways for the work I am doing today. I'm here to celebrate Adelaide Casey Hartford, who was fighting for the lives of Sierra Leone women in 1908, demanding that girls be sent to school. I'm celebrating Nigerian feminists who really organized, rallied at the market in the earlier 1900s, fighting for their lives and the freedom of women in their communities. I'm celebrating Fatima Ibrahim for making sure that Somali women and girls do not only have rights, but also resist against the religious practice that were keeping them dehumanized. We always talk about the fathers of the nations. We talk about the men who shaped the core of the African continent. We talk about all these amazing male figures who done all they could to save the continent, but we rarely hear about the mothers of the nations. We rarely hear about the women who made sure that today Africa is a continent where women like me can exist. And that is one thing history has taught us. It has taught us that over the core of stories being told, women are left behind, women are erased. While they keep the communities going, while they keep the families going, women are left behind. And that is the reality of what's happening on the continent even today. As young feminist voices have risen all over the continent, and this is from my personal experiences, organizing over 30 African countries, I have met young women shaping the everyday needed conversations in their communities. I've met young women as young as 15, making sure that rape culture in their communities is being challenged. I've met young women living at the intersections of other sexual identities and forcing the needed conversation to make sure that Africa is also safer at the LGBTQ communities, because what is an Africa where every African is not at home? I've met many young people, self-identified feminists, self-identified on anything, but working tirelessly to change the core of this continent by their stories not told. And that is how intersectional feminists are shaping the core of Africa today. Making sure that we do not talk about women's rights as this one spectrum reality, but make sure we touch the living experiences of everyone included. making sure that sex workers are not left behind, making sure that trans and queer women are not left behind, making sure that we mention the classism of our continent, making sure that we talk about nepotism, making sure that domestic workers are not left behind. That is the work young feminists are doing. Either we acknowledge it, either we don't. That is the reality happening on the ground. As the conversations around gender equality have always been broad, young feminists are narrowing it down to every single needed conversations that should happen. Movements are rising at different intersections, pushing all of us to listen, either from the civil society, either from government, to listen that today more than ever there is an urgency to make Africa safe for everybody, but mainly to listen to the voices of young people, to listen to the voices of young women organizers in different intersections of their realities, demanding that we can move any more forward with an Africa like this. I've been very privileged to lead one of the leading organizations working to build a world where gender equity, both on the African continent and all over the world. Our work on the African continent has been focused on making sure we work on intersections of issues that are making it hard to have an Africa safe for women and girls. And one of our programs have been tirelessly working with refugee women and girls. And as you may know, the African continent has a number alarming of people in refugee camp due to the political and economic crisis from many countries. Unfortunately, the majority of the people in refugee camp are women and girls going through sex trafficking, unforced marriages, child marriages, arranged marriages, sexual violence, sexual exploitations. And with the pandemic, all of these exploitation and harm done to women and girls in this situation multiplied. On June 19, 2020, I did a thread on Twitter. Most of you are familiar that I love tweeting. I love talking about the urgency to make Africa safe for women and girls on Twitter. I did a thread. I asked every single African country, providing them the data and the numbers of the reality of women and girls when it comes to teen pregnancies, and when are they going to declare a state of urgency over the lived experiences of these women and girls. Like always, my threads got thousands of retweets and people move on, we moved on. But I did not. My fellow feminists did not. My fellow African women's organizers did not, because these are our lived experiences. Because these are every single day reality, to sit on the urgency that we must make Africa safe for women and girls, to wake up every single day with another woman raped, with another case of domestic violence, with another number of teen pregnancies, with other girls leaving school because of forced marriages, with more cases of FGM. It's our lived experiences. To wake up in the middle of the pandemic and be forced to sit with the reality that as the economy of many African countries collapsed with the pandemic, women who were doing informal jobs were the ones to suffer. So when we talk about gender equality, economic justice is also at the stake. And today, as you watch me and be part of this conference, I am asking you, have you not reached the tipping point where gender equality should be the urgency? It was my ancestors' urgency, and it is my urgency today. And unfortunately, many people have to remind feminists and women's organizers, oh, you should be grateful that so much work has been done. Look at you. Look at you educated. Look at you empowered. Look at the women in overall big job position. But the numbers are not lying. And the 1 and 2 or 3 women who have made it at the top do not represent the average or the majority of African women and girls. And today, this is not a celebration. Today, this is not a celebration. As we have turned Women's Day into celebrating women, as we have turned Women's Day into acknowledging women, as we have turned Women's Day into a celebration today, I am telling you, we have absolutely nothing to celebrate. Because we have the urgency on our hands that we shouldn't live in an Africa where every 4 hours a girl is raped, molested, or a woman is suffering from domestic violence. So today, would you join me in making sure we have an Africa safe for women and girls? And if you decide to do so, ask yourself, what am I not doing and what should I do? Thank you so much for listening to me.